South Africa witnessing its worst ever violence in years, leaving more than 70 people dead. Shockingly, the rioters here are now attacking businesses owned by Indians and Indian origin South Africans. Nadia Motala brings us this ground report from Isipingo area of Durban.
Violence and large-scale vandalism. And caught in this crossfire are Indians and people of Indian origin. Eerie images show the extent of damage in multiple cities in South Africa. Over 70 people have been killed in the worst violence that the country has seen in years. People were killed mostly in stampedes as thousands ravaged through retail outlets, malls and even radio stations. The unrest was triggered by the jailing of the former South African President Jacob Zuma, who was handed a 15-month jail term for snubbing a corruption investigation which resulted in his supporters running riot. Among the worst affected areas are Durban, Pietermaritzburg and Johannesburg, all of which have a sizable population of Indian expats.
We've had looting here at our main shopping centres.
Right.
Industry around here have been looted. Paint factories have been looted. Guys that make concrete products. Basically any industry that's around here has been looted.
Businesses owned by Indians and Indian origin South Africans are being targeted by these looters.
We feel as if we are now being targeted and we are now victims at the same time.
Correct.
So, as much as we want to say that we want to count the losses, but it's not just financial, it's also emotional, it's a longevity as well that's associated with it, because, we're trying to give back to our community, we're trying to render a service. We're not just selling products, but we're rendering a specific professional service.
The looting has also resulted in a massive food shortage.
We're seeing a huge struggle for food, and there's a massive shortage of food at the moment. We're going to be going into one of the local shopping centers here. I've got Spar. I'm going to make my way into the center right now to see exactly what has happened here. If we can go through, as you can see, that this is absolutely damaged and destroyed. So the local community of Lotus Park have no way of getting any food with the shortage that is going on right now.
Not only Indians affected, we found that a lot of blacks that were there, that had informal little units over there, they were affected.
They've also lost their livelihoods.
Finished.
So this has impacted the entire community of Isipingo.
Concerned over the safety of Indian expats, External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar dialed his South African counterpart on Wednesday, who assured him that the government of South Africa is doing its utmost to restore normalcy.
I want to emphasize.
In a televised address to the nation last week, South African President Cyril Ramaphosa expressed concerns over the violence being ethnically based. The South African government has deployed over 1,200 troops in a bid to contain the violence.
So we understand that communities have come together to stand against criminals. And this is a first-hand what we're seeing here in the community.
With Nadia Motala in South Africa, Bureau Report, India Today.
Let me quickly cut across to our reporter joining us on ground, Nadia Motala, right there from Durban, South Africa. Nadia, do take us through. We've seen the reports that you've shown us, very disturbing visuals, violence that's not seen for a while now. In decades, we are looking at one of the worst crises. What more do we know in terms of attacks being targeted directly at Indians and Indian-owned businesses, apart from the rest of it?
Good afternoon, India Today. So I was on the ground today, and I can say that, yes, a lot of the attacks are on Indian stores and Indian store owners, but I can also say that it's more about looting. So it doesn't really matter whether the store is Indian owned or not. They're just targeting any store that they can. They're looting, they're taking food, which has put communities in massive shortage, not to mention the lives that have been lost. The number that you said was 70, but it's actually now escalated to 180 lives that have been lost in total.
180 lives is a huge number. How many of them have been arrested so far, Nadia? If you can take us through the kind of security arrangement as we see there. We understand that the military is on ground, but are they able to contain this kind of brutal criminality that we see unfolding?
Unfortunately, when all of the looting was taking place, the South African police services were nowhere to be seen, or rather were stretched rather thinly, trying to get to different areas in Durban, as we've been told by our current president that the attacks were quite orchestrated. So they had planned all of this, and it was done quite professionally, I would say. So the South African police service was stretched. We have now had the SANDF come on board, and they are now on the streets protecting the people. But we can see that communities have come together more than anything else to protect each other and to protect what belongs to them and the infrastructure that belongs to them.
Nadia, we're actually worried for you as well. You're out there on the streets. What does the violence really look like? Are they attacking people right in front of them? Are they using weapons? What kind of attacks are they carrying out? And how is the security agencies currently protecting the locals or the residents, women, children?
So a few days back, I would say around 2 days back, I would say it was really dangerous for us to go into any area. Our areas were cordoned off. We were asked to stay in our areas because we did not know, with all the unrest that was going on, what was going to be the condition. It has right now calmed down quite a lot, with authorities finally taking the law, which was supposed to have happened quite some time back. So we can say that now it's calmed down and it is safe for us to go out. I was, however, in quite a volatile area today, and in Isipingo, and I can say that tensions were high. We had to get out of the area almost immediately. When they saw that we were in the area, and obviously we were Indians and we were in the area trying to get some interviews with the people, they didn't take too kindly to that.
Right, a quick word on when this would likely end. What's the current government right now doing to stop this?
We're hoping that that they can come to a solution in the next week or two. We've had Cyril Ramaphosa, our president, come to chat to us yesterday and assure us that he was going to be sending out 25,000 troops on the road to take care of the civilians that have taken, unfortunately, the law into their own hands, because law authorities did nothing for them while their stores were looted and their buildings were being burnt down. There was a massive loss of life, which is basically the worst of all of the situation.
Absolutely.
While infrastructure was damaged to such an extent, it may take years and years to build back. So the economy is going to suffer quite greatly.
Nadia, thank you very much for joining us, and like to tell you here, please be safe. Now cutting across to some big news coming in from Rajasthan's BJP infighting that's now right out in the open. Rajasthan BJP expels key Vasundhara Raje loyalist for 6 years. Former Rajasthan Minister Rohit Ashwa Sharma has been expelled from the BJP after he claimed that Raje is the most popular leader in the state. Rohit Sharma accused the state BJP leadership of lack of efforts in reaching out to people during the pandemic. Here's Rajasthan BJP expelling Vasundhara Raje's close aide. In fact, we're looking at Rohit Ashwa expelled for 6 years. BJP has expelled him for questioning the BJP's COVID-19 handling in the state of Rajasthan, also claiming that Vasundhara Raje is the most popular leader in Rajasthan. Dev Ankur for more details on that. Dev, here we're looking at Rohit Ashwa being expelled for 6 years. That's quite a harsh punishment for questioning their own leadership. He's questioned the BJP's COVID-19 handling. He's also said that Vasundhara Raje is the most popular leader. Does that mean he should be suspended for 6 years?
Well, absolutely, Jamila. That's quite a harsh reaction by the BJP leadership in Rajasthan. But remember, Dr. Rohit Sharma is a senior leader of the BJP, a seasoned politician, or was a senior leader of the BJP. Before his expulsion, he was considered a very key loyalist and someone who, was amongst the coterie or the core group amongst the Vasundhara Raje loyalists. Now, his expulsion has bigger ramifications or bigger meaning attached to it. Remember, Vasundhara Raje in BJP has been sidelined ever since there was a change of government in Rajasthan. Vasundhara Raje has not been a part of the core discussions that have been taking place within the BJP in the last two and a half years since Congress government came into being. And there were accusations, there were allegations being leveled that several key loyalists of Vasundhara Raje were trying to make statements against the state BJP leadership. So there are several factions in Rajasthan BJP. One of the factions is of Dr. Satish Punia, who is the current BJP state president. Another faction is of Vasundhara Raje. Then there is a third faction of Gulab Chand Kataria, who is the leader of opposition in Rajasthan in the assembly. So the loyalists of Vasundhara Raje had been making these remarks, and when Arun Singh, who is the BJP National General Secretary and the state in charge for Rajasthan, mentioned that there will be action taken against those leaders who have been making anti-party remarks, it was understood that sooner or later some kind of action will be taken against someone like Dr. Rohitash Sharma, who was issued
and
a
clearly
notice
so,
and
quite a harsh punishment that Rohit has been given. Clearly, he is the closest aide of Vasundhara Raje, and this man who's one of the most crucial players in the BJP Rajasthan unit has now been expelled for questioning the BJP's leadership and the handling of the COVID pandemic. Karnataka Chief Minister B.S. Yediyurappa's meeting with the Prime Minister has now snowballed speculations about a leadership change in Karnataka. India Today has now learnt that Yediyurappa offered to quit the Chief Minister's post, citing health reasons, and also pitched for a bigger role for his sons in the central government. The negotiations are still underway, but Yediyurappa has assured that he will follow what the Prime Minister has to say and his instructions. Meanwhile, after reaching Bengaluru, Karnataka Chief Minister Yediyurappa has played down all those reports of his impending resignation, says all is well, and is now gearing up to throw a nice dinner party for all his MLAs in Karnataka. Here's more.
As change of guard chorus in Karnataka reaches a crescendo, Chief Minister B.S. Yediyurappa's meeting with Prime Minister Modi on Friday seems to have set the ball in motion. India Today sources reveal that Yediyurappa is ready to resign if all his conditions are met. Yediyurappa has demanded a central role for his MP son B.Y. Raghavendran and pivotal role for his son Vijayendra in the state. The negotiations are still underway, and Yediyurappa has assured that he will follow Prime Minister Modi's instructions. Yediyurappa will only resign after completing 2 years in office, which is due on July 26th, and a new Chief Minister could take oath by August. Yediyurappa has played down all the murmurs of leadership change in Karnataka and has called for a legislative party meet on 26th of July, the day he completes 2 years in office.
ಈಗಿರೋ ಪ್ರಕಾರ ಯಾವುದೇ ಗೊಂದಲ ಇಲ್ಲಪ್ಪ. ರಾಷ್ಟ್ರೀಯ ನಾಯಕರು ನೀವು ಮುಖ್ಯಮಂತ್ರಿಯಾಗಿ ಮುಂದುವರೆದು ಪಕ್ಷವನ್ನು ಬಲಪಡಿಸಬೇಕು ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿದ್ದಾರೆ. ಯಾವ ಸಂದರ್ಭದಲ್ಲಿ ಏನು ಹೇಳ್ತಾರೆ ಅದನ್ನು ನಡ್ಕೊಳ್ಬೇಕಾದಂಥ ನಮ್ಮ ಕರ್ತವ್ಯ. ಇದುವರೆಗೆ ಯಾವುದೇ ಬದಲಾವಣೆಯ ಪ್ರಶ್ನೆ ಇಲ್ಲ. ಎಲ್ಲರೂ ಒಗ್ಗಟ್ಟಾಗಿ ಕೆಲಸ ಮಾಡಬೇಕು ಅನ್ನೋ ಸೂಚನೆಯನ್ನು ಕೊಟ್ಟು ಕಳಿಸಿದ್ದಾರೆ. ಆ ಕೆಲಸವನ್ನು ಪ್ರಾಮಾಣಿಕವಾಗಿ ಮಾಡ್ತೀವಿ.
Yediyurappa also met the top leadership of the party, including JP Nadda and Rajnath Singh. There was one more twist before Yediyurappa's return to Karnataka's capital. While heading to airport, Yediyurappa got a call and he took a U-turn to meet Home Minister Amit Shah.
He asked me to work hard to come back to power in Karnataka.
Kannada, sir.
And also, in Lok Sabha election also, he must win more seats.
According to reports, Yediyurappa's succession plan started with induction of Chief Minister's close aide Shobha Karandlaje in the Union Cabinet. B.L. Santosh and Prahlad Joshi have emerged as the top contenders for Chief Minister's post. But a Brahmin face will be a bold move given the caste semantics of the state. Sources also revealed that with exit of Yediyurappa, a major reshuffle in BJP's Karnataka unit is also on the cards. Facing flack from several BJP lawmakers over handling COVID, non-performance and graft charges, all eyes on action plan of BJP top brass to secure victory in 2023 assembly polls. With inputs from Nagarjun Dwarkanath in Bengaluru, Bureau Report, India Today.
Now, Punjab power play escalates as sources tell India Today that miffed Amrinder Singh has told the Congress Punjab in charge, Harish Rawat, that he wants a public apology from Navjot Singh Sidhu for any truce formula to really work out. Meanwhile, Sidhu has been sharing hectic parleys since morning with Congress netas, apparently to garner some support there. Here's more on that.
There is no stopping the war of the Sardars. The battle between Punjab's Chief Minister Amrinder Singh and Navjot Singh Sidhu is getting murkier with each passing day. As the Gandhis desperately look for a truce formula before the upcoming polls, Congress is trying to put up a brave front as its Punjab in charge Harish Rawat tried to downplay the bitter feud in the state after his meeting with the Chief Minister.
कैप्टन अमरिंदर सिंह जी ने जो पहले एक महान बयान दिया था जिसमें उन्होंने कहा था whatever decision will be taken by the Congress President, by the CP, that will be honored by me. I will abide by that. So he reiterated that statement today also.
While Sonia might be supreme for the captain, an angry Amrinder has ruled out any samjhauta with his rival for the time being, say sources. India Today has learnt that Amrinder has sought a public apology from Sidhu for his tweets against him for any truce formula to work. The Chief Minister has clearly stated that he will abide by what top brass decides but will not meet Sidhu unless he gets an apology. Captain earlier reportedly sent a letter to Congress interim President Sonia Gandhi expressing his displeasure over Sidhu's possible appointment as Punjab Congress chief. Sources say, despite the captain's opposition, Congress's truce formula involves appointing Sidhu as Punjab Congress president along with 4 working presidents.
कहाँ चिट्ठी है कि जिसमें यह कहा गया कि सिद्धू को डिक्लेयर कर दिया गया प्रधान? ये कोई भी सब चीजें जो है वो चर्चा है और मैं आपको कहूं ये बाहर की चर्चा है। जब कांग्रेस की चर्चा कंप्लीट हो जाएगी, कांग्रेस पार्टी मीडिया के सामने आकर के एक दिन के बाद जो है वो सब बातें सामने लेके आ जाएगी।
Not one to back down, Sidhu is on a meeting spree to garner support from Congress netas. On Saturday, he met with Punjab Congress President Sunil Jakhar, followed by several other leaders. Going to their homes personally, this comes just a day after his meeting with Sonia Gandhi in Delhi.
नवजोत सिंह सिद्धू को आप देख सकते हैं यहाँ पर गले मिल रहे हैं अपने तमाम उन विधायकों के साथ, अपने समर्थकों के साथ। आप देख सकते हैं ये तस्वीरें हैं, पैर छुए हैं उन्होंने सुखी रंधावा के जो उनके साथ लगातार चल रहे थे। नवजोत सिंह सिद्धू अब लगातार कहीं न कहीं लॉबिंग में जुटे हुए हैं, अपने समर्थक विधायकों को, नेताओं को साधने में लगे हुए हैं। तो दूसरी तरफ कैप्टन अमरिंदर सिंह हरीश रावत से मुलाकात कर रहे हैं।
With only months left to state polls and no end to the bickering in Punjab Congress, the big worry for the Gandhis is that if the war of the Sardar sinks the party's poll fortunes in the upcoming elections. With inputs from Manjeet Sehgal in Chandigarh, Bureau Report, India Today.